Incredible story of a respected leader, a brilliant poet, whose entire life was turned upside down by a message he tried so desperately to ignore. It's a powerful story about faith, about patience, and about a guiding light that literally, and I mean literally, shone in the darkness.
I mean, it sounds like the start of a fable, doesn't it? But this is the real, central struggle in our story today. So let's find out exactly what happened.
All right, so to really get this story, you first have to understand the man at the center of it all. We start with a chief of the Daws tribe, a man of huge importance who's making this fateful journey to the city of Mecca.
So, who was At-Tufayl? Well, he wasn't just some leader, he was really the heart of his community. As a celebrated poet, he totally understood the power of words, and his generosity, it was legendary. I mean, he was known for feeding the hungry and sheltering anyone who was afraid. This was a man with a sharp mind and a noble heart, respected by pretty much everyone.
So, picture this. This highly respected chief arrives in Mecca, and the city is just buzzing with tension. He's immediately pulled aside by the city's leaders, the Quraysh. But they're not there to welcome him. Oh no, they're there to give him an urgent and frankly terrifying warning.
Just try to imagine hearing this from the most powerful people in the city. They describe the words of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as a kind of magic, so powerful it could rip families apart. This wasn't just a difference of opinion. They were warning him of a complete social collapse. And that warning, it really struck a nerve. It scared him.
And his response was extreme. Here's this man, a poet who lives and breathes words, and he's so terrified by what he's heard that he decides the only way to protect himself is to physically block them out. He literally stuffs cotton in his ears, determined that not one single word of this so-called magic would reach him. But, you know, destiny has a funny way of working things out. Despite the cotton, a few verses of the Qur'an, they managed to slip through. And what he heard wasn't magic, it was beautiful. That moment set off this huge internal debate. He thought to himself, wait a minute, you're a poet, a wise man. How can you be afraid of just listening? So he made a choice. He pulled the cotton out, sought out the prophet, followed him home, and asked to hear the message for himself. And after he heard it, without fear, his heart just opened up. He accepted Islam right then and there.
So now he's a believer. And At-Tufayl knows he has to take this message back to his tribe. But he's a realist. He knows he's going to face some serious skepticism. So he asked the prophet for a sign, a miracle, something that would help convince his people that this was real. And a sign was given. As he was traveling home, this brilliant, radiant light started shining right from between his eyes. I mean, like a lamp. It was an unmistakable divine sign. But At-Tufayl started to worry. He thought his people might see it and think it was some kind of punishment. So he prayed again. And just like that, in response to his prayer, the light moved. It shifted from his face down to the very tip of his whip, and it just glowed there like a hanging lantern. Now it wasn't some strange mark on him anymore. It was a beacon, a guiding light that everyone could see as he rode back to his homeland.
Now, with a miracle like that, you'd think his entire tribe would convert on the spot. Case closed, right? But that's not what happened. Not even close. His father and his wife, they accepted Islam. But the rest of his people, the Daws tribe, they stubbornly refused. It looked like his whole mission was a failure.
Actually, out of his whole tribe, only one other person believed him at first, and that man would later become one of the most famous and important companions of the Prophet, Abu Hurairah. So you can imagine, At-Tufayl was frustrated. He felt defeated, so he went all the way back to the Prophet to tell him what happened.
Now, when At-Tufayl explained how his tribe had rejected the message, a lot of people might have expected a prayer against them. But the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, showed incredible mercy. Instead of cursing them, he just raised his hands and prayed for their guidance, saying it 3 times. He chose compassion, not condemnation.
The Prophet then told At-Tufayl to go back, to be gentle with his people, and to just keep inviting them. What came next wasn't some overnight victory. It was a long, slow test of patience and faith that would eventually lead to this amazing, triumphant moment of transformation for his entire tribe.
And I mean years passed. In that time, the entire landscape of early Islam was changing. Major battles like Badr, Uhud, and the Trench took place. And through it all, At-Tufayl was back home, just patiently working among his people. Finally, after all that time, he returned to the Prophet. But he wasn't alone. This time he had 80 families from his tribe with him, all of them now believers.
To mark this huge shift,
At-Tufayl asked for permission to destroy the tribe's main idol, a statue named Dhul-Khafain. As his people watched, probably expecting him to be struck by lightning or something, he just calmly walked up to the idol, set it on fire, and chanted these powerful, defiant words. He was literally and figuratively shattering the last pieces of their old beliefs.
But At-Tufayl's story doesn't stop there. He dedicated the rest of his life to serving his faith. Later, during the Ridda Wars that happened after the Prophet's death, as he was marching to the critical battle of Yamama, he had this incredibly vivid and prophetic dream about his own destiny. And he understood what the dream meant. He knew he was going to die a martyr in the battle they were marching to, and that his son, Amr, would one day follow in his exact footsteps. And his interpretation was spot on. At-Tufayl achieved martyrdom at the Battle of Yamama. And years later, his son Amr met the very same fate at the Battle of Yarmouk, completely fulfilling the dream's prophecy.
And so, he earned this final, honored title. It just perfectly sums up his legacy, doesn't it? A life of unwavering faith that ended in the ultimate sacrifice and a path so noble that his own son would bravely follow it.
And that really leaves us with something to think about. At-Tufayl's whole story, the destiny of his family, the conversion of an entire tribe, it all came down to one single moment. The moment when a man of wisdom chose to pull the cotton from his ears and just listen. It makes you wonder, what might we be blocking out in our own lives? And how could everything change if we just chose to listen?